When Muslims preach Islam to a Christian, they're quick to say, "We believe in Jesus too." But when you start asking what they mean by belief in Jesus, it turns out to have nothing to do with the Jesus who walked the shores of the Sea of Galilee. How can we get them to understand how silly this is? I know. Let's do the same thing to Muhammad. I believe in the true Muhammad, who was a devout Christian. He was convinced that God is a Trinity and that Jesus is the divine Son who entered creation, died on the cross for sins, and rose from the dead. Now, you may be wondering, if Muhammad was a devout Christian, why do Islam's most trusted sources say that he preached Islam and claimed to be a prophet? I'll explain what happened. Before he died, he gave his followers the Quran, which, in its original uncorrupted form, was simply an Arabic translation of the New Testament. There was a villain named Uthman. After Muhammad died, Uthman decided to destroy everything Muhammad had worked so hard to accomplish. The diabolical Uthman realized that the best way to destroy Muhammad's work would be to become a wolf in sheep's clothing and to infiltrate the Christian community in Arabia. So he pretended to be a Christian, and his deception was so convincing that he eventually rose to a position of leadership in the church. Once he was in charge, Uthman ordered all of the Christians in Arabia to hand over their copies of the Quran, i.e. their copies of the Arabic translation of the New Testament. Uthman then rewrote the entire Quran, turning it into a book that denies the core teachings of Christianity, and he forced the Christians of Arabia to believe in his corrupted Quran. So the Islam that Muslims believe in today isn't the religion that Muhammad preached. Muhammad preached submission to Jesus Christ. Uthman corrupted this message by claiming that Allah is the only true God and that Jesus was a mere prophet of Allah. Now, how can Muslims refute my theory? They can't appeal to the Quran, since all known copies of the Quran were written after Uthman corrupted it. But Muslims can't appeal to the Hadith, Sirah, literature, or commentaries either, since all of these were written after the time of Uthman. The only possible response here from Muslims is that it's silly and irrational to throw out facts of history by saying that someone corrupted all of the evidence. But Muslims can't say this because it's exactly what they do with Jesus. The facts of history tell us that Jesus wasn't a Muslim, so the facts of history must have been changed. Fine. The facts of history tell us that Muhammad wasn't a Christian, so the facts of history must have been changed. Does all of this sound ridiculous to you, my Muslim friends? Now you know how we feel.